Hey everybody, it's GombletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another Qualifier play-in event. This one is going to be the Brothers War Phantom Sealed. So just a normal Brothers War Best of 1 Sealed event, except instead of playing to 7 wins or 3 losses, we'll be playing to 6 wins or 2 losses, and if we win this event, we will get qualification into the Qualifier Weekend next weekend. Qualifier Weekend events are 2-day-long events. They are single elimination. You don't get to keep replaying them, rebuying in over and over again. You just get your one qualification, your one entry. If you make it through day 1, you get to day 2, where you are competing for access or an invitation to the upcoming Arena Open or the upcoming Pro Tour. So some very high-level events that you are attempting to get into. The qualifier play-in is basically the very first rung on a very tall ladder that leads to competitive pro-level Magic the Gathering gameplay. So some pretty cool stuff there. But we're just going to play it as we would any Brothers War Sealed event, just a little bit more competitive. Should be a pretty fun time. Hopefully we open up some sweet rares and maybe even get a qualification for the Qualifier Weekend next weekend. So without further ado, let's see what we open up. Alright, looks like first and foremost we opened 8 rares total thanks to the retro framed artifact, so we get to see those 2 rares right here. Psychosis Crawler, which is very filler. It's not that impressive to me, it's just kind of a relatively large stat line for 5 mana sometimes. And then Precursor Golem, which is actually quite impressive. 5 mana for 3/3/3s. The only issue with the card is if your opponent has a removal spell to target one of them, it will target all 3 of them. The biggest way to get destroyed by this card is if your opponent has Excavation Explosion, because then they get to blow up all 3 golems and get 3 Power Stone tokens. This card has a very high win rate, and it's incredibly good when your opponent doesn't have that exact card, but the only time I've ever cast this in my format, my opponent immediately Excavation Explosioned the turn after I played it, so this card has some bad memories for me, but it is quite powerful. Hurkyl's Final Meditation is an infinite amount of mana and completely unplayable and limited. Thran Spider can get put into literally any sealed deck in the format, a 3 mana 2/4 reach that gives each player a tapped Power Stone token, but gives you a good activated ability to spend that Power Stone on. Clay Champion is a pretty great mythic rare, I think. Let's see. You need to be heavy into green and or white, but if you are, it's going to be a very big creature in green, or it's going to buff your other creatures in white. Yeah, that seems like a lot of power and toughness for the mana cost in a green or white deck. Harbin Vanguard Aviator, 2 mana for 3/2 flyer. You don't really need to read the rest of the card. That is the most efficient a 3/2 flyer has ever been. So, a very good aggressive card in a 2-color deck. And let's find out what our other rares and mythics are here. We have 2 more. Looks like one of them is the Hall of Tagzin, which is a pretty bad land, and Painful Quandary that I think is a bit overrated. Honestly, I put it at borderline unplayable. At this point, it's just too slow in this format for my tastes. And even in Sealed, which can be a slower format, if you get to that point where the game is going to go long enough that this can do some stuff, then the game is going to go long enough that you're in a top deck war where your opponent can easily just hold on to lands and not have to lose any life. So, very big hater of that card. Looks like most of our rares, honestly, are just solid colorless stuff. The best one being a blue-white card, unfortunately. And I guess Clay Champion doesn't work unless you're in white or green. But Thran Spider and Precursor Golem fitting into any deck we build is a pretty great start. So I'm into that for sure. But let's look at our individual colors now and see where it's at. Definitely hoping that our white is great, because white gives us our Tagzin and our Clay Champion. So we'll start there. And unfortunately, just at a glance, white looked pretty bad to me, but we'll find out. We do have a Prison Sentence for great removal. But then Meticulous Excavation is always too slow. Mass Production's a bit too slow without any synergies for it, which I guess we have the Thopter Architect, but that's not a particularly good card. The stat line is just way too low for its mana cost, even with a decent ability like it has. And then we have some Cavalry, which are fine. Chaplain's fine, and Paratrooper's fine. Survivor of Corliss is not a card I'm super into. We don't have enough 3 mana or less creatures for recommission to be super playable if we're just in white. Repair and Recharge is a little inflexible, only returning artifacts. Not any creatures, just specifically artifact creatures if you're trying to get a creature back with it, which is pretty much when you want to do 100% of the time in limited. So like all this stuff I pretty much don't want to play, which leaves me to just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 white cards, which is not a lot, but the ones we do have are quite good. Prison Sentence, Aeronaut Cavalries especially, but we don't even have that many soldiers for the cavalries, so white just looking okay. Definitely have some good multicolored stuff to go with it with our blue-white rare. But usually I take a look at the multicolored and colorless first, but I forgot to do that this time around, so we're just going all the way through monocolored first. Heading to blue, don't love main decking Defabricate, Desynchronize, Flow of Knowledge, Final Meditation, Depth Charge Colossus also incredibly slow. Retrieval Agent is slow for its cost. The rest of this stuff is fine to good. So blue's got a little more going for it, just a few more cards. Don't have a lot of cards to put the Mightstone's animation onto, so this might not make the cut. But the rest of them, solid filler to good filler. But that's about it, nothing more than like good filler in the deck. No huge reason to be in blue. Heading onwards to black. Ashnod's Intervention's pretty bad. Painful Quandary I'm not a fan of. Transmigrant Altar and Dredgen Claw are both too slow for their mana costs. All of our creatures in black look fine though. We've got a Warplow, a Gigamole, a Rager, an Ashnod's Harvester, and Thraxidemon. Those are all fine. Flexible as well with Warplow being able to come out for 2 mana. Black's actually probably my favorite color so far. It's not like monumentally better than white or blue, it's just like the tiniest fraction of a percentage better. Where I just like the creatures a bit more, I think is the main thing. It has like just as much removal as white. Between Gix's Caresses is ways to interact with cards in opponent's hand, and Power Stone for actually blow something up on board, while also just having better filler creatures in my opinion. But yeah, certainly nothing massively exciting yet. Checking out our red now. Domination's for a really aggressive deck. Mishra's Onslaught's bad in every single deck I've ever tried to play it in, even if you are the most aggressive deck in the universe. The creature base here in red is quite nice, but the spells leave something to be desired. There's like 1 artifact removal spell, 1 Unleash Shell, and then 1 combat trick. But the creatures are real nice. We have the 3 mana 4/3 Trample. Absurd rate at that mana cost in the Strongbow. We don't have the synergies with Strongbow though. We don't have the sibling rivalry. We don't have a lot of Power Stones either. So even Strongbow doesn't look that great in this deck. But Juggernaut looks pretty solid. Yeah, red looks solid to me. Right around where black's at in my color rankings here. And last but hopefully not least, check out our green stuff. Fog of War is very bad. Razor Maw is only good if you have synergies with it. Perimeter Patrol is pretty filler. I guess we have the Pallbearer for a synergy with the Razor Maw. If we go green-black, we have a tiny bit of Unearth. Well, we're definitely cutting Fog of War, I can tell you that much. We do have Mask of the Jadecrafter for Unearth as well. Green actually looks pretty solid as well. We have a shoot down for a potential removal spell. Then we have Gaia's Gift as a very good combat trick. Giant Growth is an okay one. The creature base is solid with our Gothian Opportunist, Sarenth Steelseeker being really good ones. Obstinate Baloth, another great one. Rust Goliath is okay. Green's pretty on par. So we like green, red, and black the most here, which is a little awkward with the blue-white rare that we've opened up. Let's check out the multicolored and colorless. So with green, red, black being the best colors, if we go in red and black, Junkyard Genius is a great card in that color pair, and then Arbalest Engineers being really good in red-green. We have Third Path Iconoclast for blue-red. A lot of multicolored stuff here. Again, if we go green, we can go Clay Champion, but if we're a 2-color deck in green, right, we spend 2 green and 2, and what do we get out of that? We get a 5/5? That's fine. If we spend 4 green, which we honestly won't really be able to do until turn 7 at the earliest if we're lucky in a 2-color deck, then we get a 4-mana 8/8? That is very big, but very, very color restrictive. I'm not sure Clay Champion's going to get in here. Looking at our color list, we do have double energy refractor. If we go for a more multicolored energy refractor style deck that's splashing in some stuff, then we're definitely not getting to play Clay Champion. But that might be what we do here. I mean, red, green, black are the best colors. We have great signpost uncommons in red, green, and red, black. So if we do a splashy thing between all 3 colors, thanks to a couple energy refractors here, we could just play all of our more consistent colors. I was going to say all of our strongest cards, but we're not playing Clay Champion or Harbin here. But we can play most of our strongest cards and our more consistent colors that way. We still have Precursor Golem and Thran Spider, so it's not like we don't have good rares in here. Yeah, I think I like the idea of checking out the Jund look. The Jund list, red, black, green here. But I probably should check out the blue-white deck as well before I wrap things up and call it a deck. Color still feels like it probably isn't super worth it. Never had my opponent cast a Psychosis Crawler on me and get that worried. I was like, ooh, that's a cool rare, but it feels like it never like kills me. Don't really have room for combat tricks in here. Gaia's Gift is an infinitely better combat trick than everything else we've got, even Moment of Defiance. Should probably cut those. 21 creatures, we need to cut 8 more cards still. That'd put us down to 13. That's a pretty low creature count. Why are we playing red here? We have Unleash Shell, Junkyard Genius, Arbalest Engineers. Red honestly probably just drops down to a splash. Cut all those cards and just play red for Junkyard Genius, Engineers, and Giant Cindermaw. Just the really good red 3-drops. Seems like a very reasonable splash. Dropping down to just those 3 cards. Still at 19 creatures here. Those are our most filler 3-drops. Like all of the 4-drops. And all the 5-drops. Rustglass is probably a bit slow. And it's still never played very impressively for me. Probably do cut those 3. Maybe the Warplow as well. We do have a Mask of the Jadecrafter that's kind of like another creature in here, so 16. Yeah, cut Warplow, we're still at 16 creatures because of Mask of the Jadecrafter. One final cut. This looks like a real solid Jund deck. It's like green-black at the core, a little bit of a red splash to up the individual card quality. I don't really want to cut another creature here because we only have 15 natural creatures and 1 mask. That makes Gaia's Courser a little weaker than usual. Ravenous Gigamole as well. Both of these cards get significantly worse if we cut more creatures. So maybe I just cut like 1 Gix's Caress. Like I definitely don't cut the Refractors because they work with these 2. I don't want to cut the Bauble because it just makes me basically run a 39 card deck. And even though I could theoretically cut a land here because I have like 3 card draw spells here, at cheap mana cost, I don't really want to because I still curve out well into high mana cost and I have really good ways to use a ton of mana late game. I have a 7 mana sink here. I've got an X mana sink here. I have unearth effects like Juggernaut and Rager for doing like 2 things in 1 turn. I don't think I want to cut a land. cut like one caress, and then that would be, this would be the Jund deck. I'm gonna go ahead and save it there. Why can't I save it there? Okay, I guess I need to make the mana base, and then I can look at the blue-white deck. So let's make the mana base. I don't think we have an Evolving Wilds. Certainly do not. So double Refractor, it's honestly a 2 mountain deck maximum. Probably don't even need that. Then I don't have any cards in the deck that require double black, so black is next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 green. Because I do have a couple double green cards. Probably where we want to be, 2, 7, 8. Seems pretty reasonable. Could even go 2, 6, 9 here. Yeah, I only need 1 black source. And I only have 3 cards that need the black mana before turn 4. Just Gigamole, Junkyard Genius, Thraxodemon. Power Stone, Fracture, and Caress are both non-creature spells we can play later, although Caress we do want to play as early as possible. Fracture is a late game play, though. But I do think 2, 6, 9 is probably better. Alright, I'm going to give this deck an image. I should go Obstinate Baloth, and then I'm going to save it there. This way I can take a look at the blue-white deck and still have the Jund deck built to switch to that without having to completely rebuild it here. So with the blue-white deck, we get to run Harbin. I guess that's the only real reason to be in blue-white, because even Clay Champion, again, it's like specifically green-white. So color restrictive there. Needing the double green or double white to trigger it all. All right, let's see if the Harbin deck looks any good here. Might play Harvester even in blue-white. With double Refractor. Alright, blue-white Harbin aggro. Cutting a lot of the slowest cards out of here. Mightstone animation still looks pretty bad. The lower artifact count. Yeah, Recommission might make the cut. We have 2 rares at 3 mana or less. They're not quite like Mega Bombs, but they're very strong to reanimate for cheap. Mass Productions might make the cut here because they're a really funny synergy with Harbin. If we have a Harbin on board and we mass production, then the next turn we get to attack with 5 or more soldiers guaranteed to trigger Harbin and give everything +1/+1 flying. This deck looks good. I still feel like the Jund deck looks better. This is right around what it would be. It would probably be a 16 land deck this time around, because this deck is more aggressive. Yeah, like we have Latinum add-ups with a couple energy refractors and Curate, which is cute. So these can trigger and get bigger throughout the game. A decent amount of flyers between Harbin, Paratrooper, Airlift Chaplain, and Wing Commando. Try to win the game in the sky. Some decent removal. We have a Prison Sentence, Weakstone Subjugation, and Urza's Rebuff. Looks like a pretty solid deck here. Another pretty solid place to go. But I do prefer the Jund pile overall. A little more consistent creature-wise, in my opinion. It's actually really close, though, looking at it like this. This does look like a good deck. Let's take a peek at green-white. Maybe there's a deck here for Clay Champion. Maybe. Some of the best stuff in this blue-white deck is the white stuff. And green was one of the favorite colors in the sealed pool as a whole. Green-white probably looks something like this. Cut the mass productions out of here. We don't have the Harbin combo to make that super worth it. Recommission as well is probably the next cut. Don't love the Survivor of Corliss in here. That creature count does get pretty low without it, though. Although there's a Mask as a sort of creature, and we don't have any of the cards that really require a massively high creature count. In this build, we don't have, you know, a Gigamole type card. This Selesnya deck might just be gas with Clay Champion in here. This is really close between these three decks, the Jund deck, the blue-white deck, and the green-white deck. How many soldiers do we have to make these Aeronaut Cavalries good? 5? Oh, we only have 3 other soldiers outside of the cavalries. That might be an issue. One of which is another 5-drop Gaia's Courser. So we have 2 cards to put the counter onto, one of which is Perimeter Patrol and the other is Paratrooper. Actually, these cavalries are kind of bad in here. Unless I put Survivor back in. I guess I could splash a Harbin in here off Energy Refractors. That would up the soldier count by 1. I probably don't want to play Lauren's Escape because Gaia's Gift is just kind of the strictly better version. It's 1 more mana. You don't get the Scry, but you get so many other abilities to make the card so much more flexible. Alright, so we'd splash the Harbin in here and go for Bant. Does look good again. It all looks good. Blue-white, green-white splash blue. Black-green splash red. Let's take another look at the Jund list and let's see. I think it's between this and the Jund list probably for me. Alright, I think I'm going to go for the Jund list here. The only thing, again, that we're super missing out on is the Harbin. We have about as much removal with Power Stone Fracture instead of a Prison Arrest and a Gix's Caress instead of a Deadly Riposte. But I really like these Signpost Uncommons as very powerful cards. And I do like Giant Cindermaw as well, being really good on the curve, and a little bit more unearth we have between Scrapwork Rager, Astronaut's Harvester, and Mishra's Juggernaut. Little tiny bit of a self-mill theme with Gigamole with those unearthed cards, plus Gaia's Courser and Gnarlroot Pallbearer. There's some solid stuff going for the Jund deck that I enjoy. Again, it's really marginal. Like, I like this probably 1% better than the other decks. So it's incredibly close, but I am going to go with the Jund deck in the end. Alright, here we have the final deck we're going to be running today. It is going to be a Jund deck. We're focused on green-black with a splash of red here. With green-black, we've got a relatively aggressive curve of creatures with some good graveyard mechanics. We have some unearth, and we have some cards that care about the number of creatures in our graveyard, like Gaia's Courser here, and then a Gigamole. To mill some of those creatures, we're also just going to trade those creatures off pretty aggressively. We also have Pallbearer at the top end of the curve, giving something +X/+X for each creature in our grave in the late game. And the red splashes for some very powerful uncommons. Giant Cindermaw, just a huge power and toughness for its mana cost. Junkyard Genius being a card that is just always threatening to end the game with only 1 or 2 attacks with that very powerful activated ability. And Arbalest Engineers being an incredibly flexible, incredibly powerful card there. Our green and black interaction is also pretty great here. We have the phenomenal combat trick that is Gaia's Gift, giving us the entire textbook of keyword abilities to use whenever we need it, countering targeted removal with Hexproof, winning any battle with Indestructible and a +1/+1 counter, trampling over for lethal with Trample, blocking a flyer out of nowhere with Reach. Love the card. Power Stone Fracture for great removal here. We can sacrifice an Energy Refractor or one of the Power Stone tokens that we're getting from Opportunist or Junkyard Genius or Arbalest Engineers or Thran Spider or any of that kind of stuff that makes Power Stone tokens to sacrifice. There's also Gix's Caress to interact with the cards in our opponent's hand. It is a relatively bomb-heavy format, so if you can get an early Gix's Caress going, sometimes that's going to save you from a bomb. And of course, a little bit more removal with Shoot Down here. So very solid, just Jund deck here. The best stuff in our sealed pool as a whole are our 2 colorless kind of bombs, the Thran Spider, that can slowly draw you extra cards throughout the late game, and the Precursor Golem, that's just a ton of power and toughness for such a cheap mana cost. So those are pretty great cards, but not exactly a reason to be in Jund here, just great cards that would go into any sealed deck we built out of this sealed pool. So that's going to be the sealed deck we're going to go with today. Without further ado, let's just hop into the gameplay and see how we do this time around. Alright, so here we are with our opening hand. Really bad one here. No black source is pretty devastating. We don't do anything till turn 4, and that's only if I hit another land. It is a risky keep. Potentially powerful one if we do hit the correct mana. If I immediately hit swamp, it's obviously great. But that's not that likely. We have about 6 swamps in the deck. I think I have to take a mulligan here. This hand is more reasonable mana-wise, but it is also a lot less mana this time around. I think we get rid of Gaia's Courser and keep it here. Then no matter what lands we draw, we can cast any of our 5-drops. I guess we could cast Gaia's Courser no matter what, because we already have a forest, but... yeah, I think we need to get rid of a 5-drop here. This hand's just really slow, but I don't think we can mulligan down to 5 here. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of Courser. I think Juggernaut's probably going to be better in more situations. We definitely can't get rid of Mask. We're probably going to have to cycle away the Mask of the Jadecrafter just as a 3-mana 3/3 on turn 3. Ooh, that is incredibly helpful. The Serenth Steelseeker is now going to make it so anytime we play an artifact, we're looking at the top card of our library, putting it in our hand if it's a land, and if it's not, we can put it in the graveyard too. To hopefully hit that land. So unfortunately we have not drawn a land yet, but the Steelseeker is going to be very helpful for that, and beautiful. Excellent, excellent draw there. Hitting the land immediately off Steelseeker is incredibly helpful, because that means I still get to play my 3rd land on turn 3. I don't miss a land drop here. I could cycle this Mask of the Jadecrafter into making a 1/1 and triggering the Steelseeker again, but I think it's probably not worth it here, because I know I can play the Spider next turn, or the Engineers. I'm going to play the Spider, though. We get a Power Stone from this, which means I get 2 triggers from the Steelseeker to try to hit a land. Energy Refractor can go in the grave. And then there's a land. We still hit the land for turn, thanks to the double trigger from Thran Spider. Beautiful stuff. We'll attack in, holding onto the Mask of the Jadecraft to use later when we have a million mana, thanks to the Power Stone, 4 lands, and any more lands we hit from Steelseeker. Our opponent plays an Airlift Chaplain as a 2/2 flyer here, so they don't just make the small version. We could just Precursor Golem and hit a bunch of lands again. That's actually probably the strongest play for the turn. And we have a 2/4 reach creature to block the flyer, so we're not that worried about getting beaten down from that. Yeah, we'll just drop a Precursor Golem and get ready to beat our opponent down if they don't have an instant or sorcery-based removal spell here. And Steelseeker's going to mill an Unearth card. Beautiful value there. And our opponent's over it. They don't want to deal with Precursor Golem with a Steelseeker on board. We're going to be 1-0. And the crazy thing is I was about to hit a second Unearth card to mill with the Steelseeker. The card just absolutely popping off. Here we are on the playing game 2. This will be a keep. We have our 2 main colors of mana. We don't have the red source yet for the Cindermaw, but we can't expect to consistently have that. So let's get the Thraxodemon rolling here. Definitely worried about the draws here. We've hit our 5th land already, 6th land. This could be an issue. Could definitely run out of gas, run out of steam late in the game. Blitz Automaton from our opponent. 3 mana, 3/2. Fair enough. We've got a shoot down. Could exile that, but I can just hold my 2/2 back and go for the trade. If they don't have like a Whirling Strikes in their sealed pool. Well, let's find out. Oh, just a trade, fair enough. Traded my 2 mana card for their 3 mana card. And we're at turn 5. Let's drop our 5 mana 4/5. Alright, opponent's got 4 mana down now in their blue-red deck. Could this be here? Could be Excavation Explosion. So they throw the Strongbow and the Explosion at killing my Courser. That's a 2-for-1. Is there any trick here in blue or red that would be a 1-for-1? I can't think of one, but there's gotta be, right? There's gotta be some red trick that gives +3. Whirling Strikes is +2/+0. don't have another creature to play after the Courser, so I don't even know if I take the 2-for-1 of Strongbow Explosion here. Probably don't. Problem is if I take that damage though, like it's threatening a lot. Okay, there we go. Now I've got the Mountain for Cinder Moss. I've got a very easy follow-up play. Just block Strongbow with Cinder Maw here. Urza's Command. Well, that wasn't the trick they were going to use in combat. Maybe it was. Maybe they were just going to -2/-0 so that their Pendragon Strongbow didn't die. My creature wouldn't die either. Ooh, Precursor Golem. I can blow that up with a Power Stone Fracture. Sack the Power Stone, we trade Cindermaw into Strongbow here. Fingers crossed we can draw one of our multitude of Power Stone producers or unearthed creatures to use with Power Stone Fracture here, because I really don't want to lose Gaia's Courser. Oh no, they sacked the Precursor Golem? Well, nah, that's kind of rough, yeah. Oh, I've got the shoot down. I'm such a fool. I could have shot down the Precursor Golem there. But they could have sacked it in response no matter what, right? The way that it works. I think if I didn't go for the block on Strongbow, if I just waited, if I put shoot down on the stack targeting one golem, I don't think they can just sack that one golem in response to counter all 3 copies. I think the copies would have resolved, so it would have been better to just wait there. Alright, well. I do not love this position. Just draw the card off Bauble here. I just draw the card off Bauble and block some 3/3s. Thinking theoretically I could blow up both 3/3s by exiling one and fracturing the other, and then the XX construct would only be like a 1/1 or a 2/2. Don't really want to spend like all my removal here. Now they have a card I wish I could exile, but I can't. I have now drawn the Power Stone producer to use with Power Stone Fracture. They're gonna hit me so hard next turn. If I blow up Juggernaut, they bring it back and attack with everybody, block there, take 8. But if I don't kill it, then I have to trade Courser off into it, and they can just bring it back later anyway. Could have sacked Junkyard Genius and went for a Courser attack to draw a card, but then I'm dead on board, because I take 11 on the crackback. Oh my god. It's a pretty large card there. Well, and obviously I don't have any choices here. Can't sacrifice it to itself. Go to 1. If they kill me with a combat trick, then I'm already dead. Alright. Guess that is how it's gonna be. 1-1 heading into game 3. Here we are now in game 3. The mana's not great, but we have Energy Refractor to try to fix that. It's also going to draw us a card. Get us a little closer to our 3rd land drop. I'm going to keep it, relying on Energy Refractor to do some heavy lifting here. Mask of the Jade Crafter from our opponent. We do hit the third land drop. Could just play Mask, and I know I can make a 3/3 next turn if I do that. I would rather just Refractor, though. Alright, opponent just setting things up, drawing some cards with Gruesome Realization. Very good land here. We hit our first off color of mana, our Swamp. Sure, let's get the Ashnod's Harvester down here, get an actual creature on the board ready to attack. Opponent is also on green-black. Gix's Caress, that's annoying. There goes Precursor Golem. Might take a couple minutes for our opponent to get there. Writing down our hand. Alright, there they go. Just beat down with the Harvester. Psychosis Crawler, it's very fine. Guys, gift this fight instead of Power Stone Fracturing seems very okay to me. Really want to mask for a 3/3 here. Ooh, Llanowar Wastes. Our opponent has the rare dual land on color for them. Emergency Weld the Crawler back to their hand, replay it. Again, it's still not like the most massive deal ever, but it's probably worth removal. Or a trade. I'll just go for the Pallbearer trade here, I think. Take a lot of damage if they don't block here, and if they do, then we get that thing off the board. Trade it is. Fast turn. Now we have an unearthed creature to sacrifice to Power Stone Fracture. So we don't have to lose any value whenever we do that. And Blanchwood Prowler is going to be their play. Mill a very powerful rare Liberator Urza's Battlethopter, but they also milled a Scrapwork Rager. Wow, they've got double Rager in the sealed pool, seems good. One of them milled, one of them just on board here. Opponent going to get pretty far ahead in value. Can Harvester away their other Rager here, which seems fine. Can triple block to kill Pallbearer. I think it's probably okay. The triple block has arrived. Drop the Cindermaw and pass the turn. Scrapwork raging from the graveyard. I would rather not trade the Cindermon to a combat trick. And the risk is very low here when we're at 20 life. We can take that 2 damage very freely. No one left behind on the very strong Liberator Urza's Battlethopter. It gets larger every time they cast a spell that costs more mana than this card's power. And it makes all of their colorless and artifact spells castable at instant speed. This card is devastating. Honestly, just trying to outrace Liberator at this point. I mean, they only have 2 cards in hand, so probably can't get that big here. So I actually think that I blow up the 3/3 so I can get an attack in with Cindermaw that they can't really block, and then next turn I trigger the Junkyard Genius. Just trying to attack for lethal. And the Junkyard Genius does give haste, so we can sack the Mask to make something and then sack the Refractor to Junkyard Genius. Give the Golem haste. Alright, yeah, they tap all for the 7/7 here. Okay, cool. So I don't know if I can kill my opponent here. I'm gonna get really close. Right, because they have to block Cindermaw with both, because that's gonna be 5 damage, and then 1/2 plus whatever the Mask brings us. I think I kill them. So I need 4 mana to use Junkyard Genius. So I need all that mana, because I need black, 1, and then 2 mana to get the red. So I can spend 4 mana on Mask. Yeah, that's lethal. That is very lethal. They can only block one of the 5 power creatures, which means the other one gets through alongside Junkyard Genius for 7. And there's the concession from our opponent. It's going to be 2-1 now as we head into Game 4. Not the greatest mana here. We need a red source to cast our only creature that costs 3 or less, otherwise we have to wait till turn 5. And we have a combat trick with no castable creature till later in the game. We are on the draw, but this feels a little risky. I'm going to take the mulligan here. This mana is beautiful. Probably keep Harvester Gigamole and then just hope to draw some non-land stuff. Although I could just drop a swamp here. Everything in the hand, except for Gigamole, is still castable after 3 mana. This way it's a lot harder to flood out. A lot easier to screw though, but that's only if I keep drawing cards that cost 4 or greater. Everything else, everything that costs 3 or less is very castable with this hand because of our perfect mana. So I think the 3 land keep is actually pretty reasonable here because of the color distribution of the 3 lands. Making almost anything an active draw for us. Opponent with a very aggressive sealed pool. 1-drop creature, 2-drop creature, removal spell turn 3. Drop Opportunist, and if I hit any land I can play Juggernaut next turn. This way I'm stopping their damage on the board, slowing the game down for us. Also Caress and make sure they don't have an incredible follow-up play. Both of these are actually pretty solid. The Opportunist line is a little bit banking on hitting a land next turn, but kind of so is the Caress, because we get a Power Stone from that too. I don't know, I'm going to go Caress here. Not immediately impact the board, make sure they don't have any great follow-ups. I'm only taking 3 damage next turn. Wow, it's 2 very good removal spells. We'll get rid of the better one. The Mishra's Command is both a removal spell and a ton of extra damage, giving +X+0 haste to something. So we know they have Disfigure and whatever they just top decked. So they don't have a lot here, so we can win the long game if we can just hit a little bit more mana. And our Gothian Opportunist is perfect, because playing this Opportunist is going to give us the mana we need for Juggernaut or Golem. It is going to die to their Disfigure, but that's a-okay by me. And they're just going to use the Clay Revenant Thraxodemon combo to start drawing some cards. Try to keep in the game card advantage-wise. It's cool with me. So now we know they just have 2 blind draws. No idea what those 2 are. If I can wait a little bit, Gaia's Gift will be able to target all 3 golems. So if I can wait till I hit 2 more lands, then Precursor Golem gets even better. It just gets ridiculously good. Might be a little greedy, but I have pretty solid plays for now of just Juggernaut, and then as soon as I hit 1 more land, Gigamol's pretty good. Conscripted Infantry from our opponent, that is very likely just going to trade for Juggernaut, and it's just more creatures from them. May have to just play Precursor Golem here. We know they're playing off the top, so if they don't immediately hit removal for Golem, I'll still have Gaia's Gift Golem combo coming up. And Golem gives me so many more blockers than just playing 1 Gigamol now that they have a wide board state and the Strongbow being able to threaten a ton of damage. So I think I'm probably actually on Precursor Golem this turn. Again, they have 1 opportunity to draw the instant or sorcery removal spell to blow up all the golems. And if they don't hit it right now, we can hold up Gaia's Gift pretty much every other turn. Looks like they're sacking the Clay Revenant here, going for 1 more spin. So if they had a removal in the top 2 cards, here it comes. Okay, we've got a Gnarlroot Pallbearer for later. A little difficult to hold up this Gaia's Gift. And they have the mana to bring the Clay Revenant back, so I can't exile it with Ashnod's Harvester if I go for a Harvester attack. So that's not super worth it. I do want to put more creatures on the board, but I can't do that and hold up Gaia's Gift at the same time here. Could Mask of the Jadecrafter into a 2/2 and hold up Gaia's Gift, but that's not great. Probably just going to let the shields get down here. Or if they just make a block where Gaia's Gift works really well, then we'll just gift right now. And Gaia's Gift does work really well right now. So we'll just cast it here. And then now I've got plenty of value from the Golem effect, from the Gaia's Gift as well. Now let's just get aggro and put the 2/2 down. Oh, it's a Golem too. Oh, I should have just done that earlier. I thought this thing was a construct for some reason. Relevance creature type. Yeah, that's awkward. That seems loose. They're going to mill me with Gnawing Vermin when I have 3 unearthed cards in grave already. I will take the bonus value. Yeah, we attack all. They're at 8 life here. No cards in hand. They just choose to take lethal, so we will be 3-1 now, which means we are getting 3,000 gems back out of this. This event costs 4,000 gems to play. So even if we don't win this time around, that's a pretty big cost reduction on another attempt at the very least. So very nice stuff. 3-1. Here we are in game 5 with another mulligan. This is a 2-land hand, 1 mystery card from Mishra's Bauble, but we can't guarantee that's a land. We especially can't guarantee that it's a red or a green source. We can hope. I guess any 5 lands gets us to that golem. 2 more lands gets us to Gigamole. We have a draw at the start of our turn and a draw from Bauble, and we're already at about 50-50 on lands. We're at 45% of our deck is lands right now. The odds of hitting four lands by turn 4 with this hand is actually kind of high. Right, if it's around a 50-50 each draw, we get to draw on our first turn and draw again on our first turn. We get to draw 5 cards. We need to hit 2 lands out of 5 cards when 50% of our deck is lands right now. That's still a little sketch. Yeah, I'm gonna mulligan. This is better. We've got that Steel Seeker with Mask the Jade Crafter to synergize into drawing a bunch of lands, and if we hit any land immediately, then we can Opportunist after the Steel Seeker, which is also beautiful. We just get rid of the Cinder Maw, because that's the only thing that requires red mana. And this is very good. Yeah, this hand is much more reasonable. Playing against green-white, they're going to start off with an Ichor Wellspring to draw a card. That will draw a card when it dies as well. Well, a little awkward, we're just immediately hitting a million lands, but if Steel Seeker hits us more, then that's cool too, because it's digging them out of the way. Wow, we've hit perfect mana here. Okay. Green, black, and red, and here's our Gothian Opportunist to see what Steel Seeker hits. Gaia's Gift. I want to keep that. They could have an Ambush Paratrooper here that is not big enough to kill Steel Seeker, but it is if they Ambush Paratrooper plus Military Discipline. What are the odds of Paratrooper and Discipline? Not that high, and if they use it on Steel Seeker, then Opportunist won't get hit by that combo. I guess they could Deadly Riposte and just shoot the Steel Seeker. But again, like, we've got enough lands now. And that would keep Opportunist from getting hit. Scrapwork Cohort, that would be incredibly frustrating if I didn't have Gaia's Gift. That is a nice card to have drawn into here. Although I guess I could have played Juggernaut if I didn't have to Gaia's Gift here off this attack, so maybe I should have just played Juggernaut and not attacked. But I had the backup line of Gaia's Gift, Mask of the Jade Crafter. That was like really hoping that my opponent didn't block there though. So, probably would have been better to just play Juggernaut. Now we're keeping Thraxodemon on top because we got a Power Stone. Excuse me, a Power Stone to sack, which is nice. So our green-white opponent is just chilling for now. They might be debating between putting some more stuff on their board or playing a removal spell here. They're going to go Seraph Steel Seeker of their own and then Scrapwork Cohort. Very powerful synergy with the Steel Seeker. That's going to be 2 enter the battlefield triggers with their artifacts. Alright, and they're just going to keep the card on top, so whatever's on top of their library is something good. Luckily for us, that at least means they didn't get to draw any extra cards off Steel Seeker. But we haven't gotten to do that either. 4-3 here, they'd have to triple block to kill, so I just like sending the Opportunist in. And dropping a Juggernaut down. Very nice attacker for the future. Mishra's Bauble. That gives me another Steel Seeker trigger plus a card draw. So I'll keep it. It is going to slow me down. It means I don't get to play my card next turn. So I'll just be playing a Bauble instead of whatever would have been on top underneath the Bauble. So Hoarding Recluse is their draw. 2-3 reach Death Touch when it dies. Put a card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. Let's drop Bauble, see if we hit a land here. It is not a land, and Not that interested in drawing that at this point, although it does do the same thing with Steel Seeker, where it triggers Steel Seeker and draws me a card. So you know what? Fine. Send these two in. Recluse trades into one of them, but that's fine. Looks like they're going to trade into the Juggernaut and then put the Juggernaut on bottom of my library to avoid the Unearth ability. Which is fair enough. They are going to repost the Opportunist. Pretty even board state here. They have one card in hand, we both have a Steel Seeker. I know I have good cards coming up for the Steel Seeker. I guess let's see what's on top of their library. That might have affected how I wanted to play. I should have done that sooner. Ashnod's Harvester. That's fine. That triggers Steel Seeker again, which is not lovely for me. We're a little bit ahead on board because we have this Mask of the Jade Crafter. So I think we're very slightly winning the game right now. But that can change very dramatically in Sealed. And our opponent is now ahead in cards because they've actually hit a land off their Steel Seeker. Ooh, Pallbearer? I actually don't have the mana to play that yet because I just haven't been hitting lands off Steel Seeker. Let's see what we get from Refractor and Steel Seeker. I have Steel Seeker trigger first, so I don't end up drawing the land off Refractor. Well, take it. Draw Junkyard Genius. And then Junkyard Genius. Trigger the Steel Seeker. There we go. Gotten a land from our Steel Seeker now. Could drop a 2/2 with this mask, but probably just want to save that as our primary win condition. Just make a couple 8/8s these next couple turns. Goblin Firebomb. Wow, that's actually disgusting here. Usually pretty bad, but actually incredible here because it triggers Steel Seeker, then they get to blow up Mask and attack with Harvester. It's pretty obnoxious. We're pretty far in the lead if they do that, though, so it's fine. This looks like they're not even going to firebomb the mask. Just going to hold on to it. Alright, but both of these are really good at sacking our stuff on board, but Steel Seeker's such a good activated ability. Gotta get rid of this Harvester, though. Use the Thraxodemon. Just costs a lot of mana to keep using that. Steel Seeker triggers for free, and Junkyard Genius can be a win con. Soul Guide Lantern. Another way to exile our Mask of the Jade Crafter if it ever goes in the grave. They can sacrifice it to exile our graveyard. They are going to trigger their Serenth Steel Seeker. Check out what's going on top of their library. Spring Leaf Drum. Yeah, that is very bad at this point in the game. Obstinate Baloth. Pallbearer's only going to get +1/+1 right now. +1/+1 is still enough to make Junkyard Genius big enough to attack in. And this will be the biggest threat on board. Alright, so now we have the better board state, and they're stuck where they can only firebomb one of our threats. So they could firebomb the pallbearer, but then I know that whatever size golem I make off the Mask of the Jadecrafter is going to stick around, and we can kill them with that instead. Of course, we've seen in an earlier game how good the Junkyard Genius Mask of the Jadecrafter combo can be, to just give the gigantic golem haste out of nowhere and menace. Get very close to ending a game in one attack. Sigil of Valor is not a great draw for our opponent either, because it only works off of attacks. They definitely need to be on the defensive right now. So we're happy to see that from our opponent. Slap it on the soldier, pass the turn. Power Stone Fracture. Power Stone Fracture can put them down to only one blocker here, which means giving everything menace with Junkyard Genius. It's tremendously likely to find lethal. So if I Power Stone Fracture for double black, destroy the Steel Seeker, sacrifice this, then I use colorless, green for mask. Oh, and then I guess I hid an extra mana, and then I do red, green, black, Junkyard Genius. Everything has menace and haste, and that should be lethal. They block there, take 10, 11, 12. Oh, it's 1 damage off. It's 1 damage from lethal, which means we would have had lethal if I had the land before I made the golem. But it still should be more than close enough here. They get to draw 1 card, unless that is a board wipe effect. They should be quite dead. Alright. So I guess we would have won that game 1 turn earlier if I attacked with the Steel Seeker that turn I was playing around like a riposte or something. But actually, I don't remember if I actually played around that. My memory is horrible. Either way, we're now 4-1, which means no matter what happens, we're in the money. We are in the value. We're going to be leaving with 4,500 gems. We spent 4,000 to enter, so in the money no matter what, and 2 wins away from potentially qualifying for the upcoming qualifier weekend. Alright, here we are in game number 6. Not an incredible hand here, but we have some good setup cards in the early game with Energy Refractor drawing us card, Mask giving us a blocker relatively soon. Our opponent is going to start the game with a 2-mana 3/1, which we are not excited to see. I don't want to mask into a 3/3 and block Harvester, because then they just exile the mask from the grave. And 1-for-1 trade there, so I think I'm just going to set up Refractor for now and see if we can draw into something better. Gix's Caress is fine. Please no 3-drop. Oh god. 2-mana 3-power creature into 3-mana 3-power creature. Powerful curve, a lot of what you're going to see in Brothers of War, especially in draft. I do have an Opportunist now, which is a great play because it gives us something to trade off into our opponent's attackers while still setting up our mana with that Power Stone. So very happy with that, and incredibly unhappy to see Transmigrant's Crown. Card is brutally good. For only 1 black mana, they can equip it to a creature to give it +2/+0 and make it so whenever the creature dies, they draw a card, putting them very far ahead in card advantage. So now we really want to draw like a shoot down or something. I could play Steel Seeker and Mask and trigger Steel Seeker. Could also just play Juggernaut here. Try to crack back at them, but they're just going to outrace us pretty easily. I can't play Steel Seeker Gix's Caress because I only have 4 natural mana. 1 from a Power Stone. Oh, none of these lines seem great to me. Steel Seeker isn't going to reasonably block anything on board anyway. Guess I could just Caress Mask here. Just spend a turn on setup. They have an Emergency Weld, a Hoarding Recluse, and a Scrapwork Rager. That is a very good hand. I think I'm going to get rid of Emergency Weld and just hope they don't top deck a land somehow. Because they definitely don't discard their Unearth card. And Recluse isn't that scary. Yep, spend a turn on setup here. And they top decked the land. Well, that is not ideal. Here comes Scrapwork Rager to draw them cards, keep them ahead in card advantage while they're beating us down. Make a 7/7 from this mask, but then they Unearth Harvester and exile it from my grave, but I do have a 7/7. I can play Steelseeker and Juggernaut though instead, thanks to all these Power Stones. Get that trigger and have multiple blockers instead. There's the shoot down for the crown, which is interesting to me. Still going to be getting beaten down pretty hard even without the crown on their board. So they just honestly don't really have time to use it. They're going to put Clay Revenant back in hand here. They must have drawn into Power Stone Fracture or something where they really want it. Or they're just moving the crown around, I guess, and that's the best way to use their mana. Because they can afford to move the crown and put Clay Rev back in hand. Yep, that looks like that is what that is. Send it in the sky as well, down to 6. They kill us in 2 attacks with Acrobat, and they very much have the artifacts to sacrifice to send it into the sky. I can Gaia's Gift, though, if I had 1 more mana. I guess I can with Energy Refractor. I can use Energy Refractor to get 1 mana out of these Power Stones, so Energy Refractor plus Swamp means I am holding up Gaia's Gift here. So we exile the crown, attack with Juggernaut, and then Gaia's Gift on blocks to kill this Acrobat. Ashnod's Harvester, very, very powerful aggro card. Okay, they're not going to get the flying. I'm still going to Gaia's Gift here to kill the Acrobat. Which means they have no... No, they'll still have the Hoarding Recluse. They will have 1 creature left on board to attack with. They also can reanimate the Scrapwork Rager. Juggernaut obviously has to attack. I could play Gigamole plus Mask to play multiple blockers this turn, now that I know they can't exile Mask from grave anyway. Let's see what they do. Will they take the trade into Juggernaut? I highly doubt it. Yeah, they don't. I think I'm going to play multiple blockers here and get incredibly safe. Play 2/3 Gigamole and a 4/4 from the Mask. Ooh. Never mind, I'll play a Thran Spider instead. Trigger the Steelseeker twice. Land off both hits. They're at 9 life. I've got a lot of blockers now. Could be turning the corner. They scoop them up. All right, let's go. Is that win number 5? That's win number 5 out of 6. We're going to be leaving with 6,000 gems no matter what, and we are 1 win away from an entry into the qualifier weekend, and this is going to be the last round, win or lose. Very much a final boss kind of event here, everything on the line. In the final game of Magic, round 8. Let's go, or round 7, sorry. I'm used to the final rounds being like round 8, but it's only a 6-win event, not a 7-win event. Kind of weird. Kind of weird, 6 wins or 2 losses instead of 7 wins or 3 losses like usual. But let's see, final round, here we go. There's definitely some risk in this hand again. We would really like to hit another forest and we'd like to hit a swamp, but we have Steel Seeker into Harvester to dig for lands. We do need to aggressively mill ourselves with this card. If my opponent immediately has Disfigure for Steel Seeker, that's going to play pretty poorly for us, but we did immediately draw forest number 2, so we know we have Baloth, which is beautiful. That's awkward. Another turn 2 Harvester. Card is just so aggressive that I'm monumentally tempted to just play Harvester and trade with it on blocks, but I think I still am supposed to Steel Seeker first. Oh no. We get aggroed out here. Turn 2, they play a 3-1, and turn 3, they play a 2-2 haste. That's Brothers War for you. We've got the land drop for turn as well. Yeah, this is a big problem. Alright, Harvester, give us a goodie. Thran Spider? I'll keep it. Big blocker. Big blocker that also could trigger Steel Seeker, but at this point I probably trade Steel Seeker into Harvester. Like, Thran Spider's really good at triggering Steel Seeker, but nothing else in her hand is. No attack with Harvester, just Feldon. Alright, Feldon. What are you going to draw off of the top 3 for our opponent? Oh my god. 2 different removal spells to blow up our Steel Seeker. Couple pretty good options there. They're probably going to take Excavation Explosion and shoot Steel Seeker for the turn, which is quite the solid turn for our opponent. We do have an Obstinate Baloth coming up to gain some life though, so if they spend the turn not putting another creature on board, that's fine for us. No! They choose Obliterating Bolt and then Lodestone Golem is the play for the turn. Try to slow us down with that. That is deadly. 4 mana, 5 power. Well, this means I still have Steel Seeker to trigger Thran Spider, which is cool. But now it's even harder to cast everything else. And this Lodestone Golem is going to be really hard to kill. And they can now just exile my Thran Spider. I need to draw cards that immediately impact the game. I can't dawdle around with Bauble here, so we're going to mill both of those. And things are looking very bad for us. So they obliterate the Thran Spider, we trade into the Harvester and take 5, we're down to 10. And they of course still have the Harvester to recast from grave. Some disgusting aggro matchups these last 2 games. These decks look like draft decks. Oh my god, 2 Ashnod's Harvesters? Good lord. I do not see any lines that get us anywhere near victory. Do I 1-for-1 trade these things off? If I play Baloth here, at least they don't attack with Harvester for a turn. I just trade Baloth into Golem. Then I'm playing Juggernaut to trade into Harvester. Never gonna have the mana to gift plus Baloth. Unless I can get Juggernaut to trade into Golem, but that's not going to happen because they'll just attack with only Harvester and I'll still have to trade. They're hitting for like 11 next turn because they can reanimate their other Harvester. This deck's atrociously good. Feldon, Obliterating Bolt, Ashnod's Harvester, Lodestone Golem, Excavation Explosion. Just like a streamlined, wildly aggressive draft deck. Ah, cool. Bomb Mythics as well. Well, I guess Arena's decided that we're losing this one. This is not a 6-win run. Brutal. I'm never going to have the mana to play a blocker and this guy as gift. If I hit a swamp, I can still Power Stone Fracture this thing away. I'm just dead on board though, because this thing's so ridiculous. This thing was a 6 mana, 7/4 trample haste that made me discard a card. Can't even exile the Blade Coil Serpent because then I die to them unearthing the Harvester. And if I play Juggernaut to block that, I die to them unearthing Harvester. That is stronger than 90% of the draft decks I've played against. What a brutal matchup to end it off. Incredible aggressive curve with multiple Ashnod's Harvesters, cheap removal like Excavation Explosion and Obliterating Bolt to follow it up. 3 bomb rares in a row. Feldon and Lodestone Golem, not really bomb rares, but very powerful aggressive rares that just put out a lot of damage very early in the game. Feldon especially, but then Lodestone Golem 5 power for 4 mana. It also taxes my spells to slow me down. Feldon into Golem into this 100% being a bomb rare. Brutal way to end it today. That's always going to feel pretty terrible. Well, feels like I did the best I could there. I think I played pretty decently, just lost some games to some decks we were outclassed by. Which definitely happens. 5-2 it is, 1 win away from an entry into the qualifier weekend, but that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed that video and would like to see more, I am going to do one more attempt. That will be tomorrow's video, but there will be another qualifier play-in event next weekend. There's a last-second one next Friday, right before the qualifier weekend, and we'll be playing in that as well if I don't qualify in my next attempt today. So if you want to see more qualifier play-in runs, there'll be at least one more coming up. And yeah, other than that, more Brothers War drafts, Arenas cubes coming back in about a week. That should be pretty cool. There's going to be an Arena Cube Arena Open that we'll play for some fun. And yeah, all that great draft and sealed stuff will be coming to the channel. As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.